All right, I think we're going. Let's see how fast we can do this lesson. So get your pencil, paper, calculator ready to go. Pencil is the tool of the mind. Every time you're thinking, you should be writing. And when you're writing, you should be thinking about what you write. So let me share the screen with you. We're going to go over adding or combining signed numbers. Today's Sunday. I did this lesson on Friday with the students. Let's see how fast I can. Let me see if we can get this done. I'm going to skip the you try it problems. You try it. You can pause the video and you try it. But I'm going to go over the lesson. So let's see here. My first name is Mr. Last name Marsh. Okay, rational numbers. Rational numbers, by way of review, are going to be a number that you can write as a fraction, like an A over a B, where A and B are numbers. And B can't be 0, and A and B have to be integers. Those have to be whole numbers. Integers are positive and negative, what you and I would call whole numbers. No decimals, no fractions. Mathematicians have a special definition for whole. That would be the non-negative integers, so 0, 1, 2, and 3, and so forth. But integers could be like -5 or +7. Can't be 19.5. That would also be a rational number. Okay, so something like 3/4, that's rational. 5 is rational because you can write it as 5 over 1. All right, we'll skip the little Venn diagram there. Sign tells us, by way of review again, sign tells us direction. Anytime you have a positive or negative sign, it means direction of some kind. Left of something, right of something, above, below, forwards, backwards, counterclockwise, clockwise, that kind of thing. Two kinds of direction would be location and then also change. You can be changing something, increasing and decreasing. All right, so now lesson part A. When adding or subtracting signed numbers, the first thing you do, if I can get the iPad to not lag on me. First thing that you do, there we go, is combine all multiple signs into one equivalent sign. So when you see numbers that are like 5 plus and minus minus and -7 or something like that, you're like, what's plus minus minus plus or something? Combine all those signs into one. And basically, two negatives cancel at a time to give you positive. But let's go through it. If I've got a positive times a positive, that's a positive. If I've also got a negative times a negative, that's also a positive. And we'll talk about that in a second. I combine a positive and a negative with a single negative, and it doesn't matter what order, so you can combine a negative and a positive with a single negative. The question really is, how many negatives do you have? If you have an even number of negative signs, they'll cancel all out in pairs and give you a resulting positive sign. If you have an odd number of negative signs, you'll have one left over after they cancel. But now let's talk about, why is a negative times a negative positive? Remember, sign means direction and negative means the opposite. So what this really means here, when you have a negative of a negative, is it means the opposite of opposite direction. And so if I face to the, I'm trying to think about how the orientation is on the camera. If I face to my left, ta-da, and then I say, all right, I'm going to face the opposite direction. I'm then facing to my right. And then I say, but wait, I want the opposite of that opposite. I'm back facing to the left. Okay, so a negative times a negative is a positive because it's the opposite of an opposite direction, which cancels out. Okay, so now let me give you some examples here. If I say 5 plus a -3, and this is just in combining the sign, how do I replace plus a negative? It becomes 5 minus 3, and then I can proceed. So what we're doing is we're simplifying the signs. If you have multiple signs, we're going to replace them with one equivalent sign that does the same thing. 17 minus a -4. Well, what is the replacement for a negative? That would be a positive. So this becomes 17 plus 4. And then this one over here, -6 minus a +9. Well, how do I replace a minus plus? That would be -6 gets replaced with a single minus, 9. We'll talk about the numbers now. So once you replace all stacked or multiple signs with one equivalent sign, then we go in now to combining the numbers. So if the signs of the numbers that you're combining, the two numbers, just do them two at a time. If the signs of the numbers are the same, you're going to add the numbers and you're going to keep the common sign that they already are. Okay. Now, at this point, you're going to have to understand that I'm talking about signs, positive and negative, and numbers differently. By number, I mean how big or how many. By sign, I mean direction. And so if you've done the introduction to math, you know that numbers tell us two things, how many things there are, or how big one thing is. That's the number part. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever. 13.7. That's the number part. Sign is something different. Sign tells you direction. And so I'm going to be alternating back and forth between thinking about the sign, positive and negative, and then thinking about the number, which does not include the sign. So, for example here, I've got negative 12 plus a negative 7. The parentheses don't matter in this case. Don't let that fool you. So the first thing I'm going to do is replace the two signs with one equivalent sign. Negative 12 minus 7. Now that the signs are replaced, I got one sign on each number. Here's my thought. Are the signs the same or different? The signs are the same. So I'm going to add the numbers. Which numbers, Marsh? Negative 7? No, I'm not thinking about the signs. Ignore the signs for just a minute. Just grab the numbers. What's 12 plus 7? 19. Okay. But then you have to go back and keep the common sign that they both are. Oh, my final answer is negative 19. There we go. Because both of the original numbers were negative. If I have negative 12 and I go negative 7 more, I've gone a total of negative 19. Okay? Now, how about this one? 15 minus a minus 4. So replace that with a single sign. 15 plus 4. Now, are the signs the same or different? You're going to say, well, there's no sign on 15. Well, there is if it's in the front and not a sign, it's understood to be positive. So both of these are the same. So add the numbers. What's 15 plus 4? That would be 19. And now let's be specific. What's the sign of the answer? It's positive. You don't have to write it. I'm just being deliberate about this. Okay, negative 1 minus a positive 13. Again, change the duplicate signs into a 1. One single sign, negative 1, that gets replaced with a negative 13. Are the signs the same or different? They are the same. Add the numbers and don't think about the sign. Just 1 and 13, that's 14. Add those numbers together and then keep the sign that they both already are. Okay? Good. Now, the second part. If the signs are different, what do you think you would do? If you said subtract, you're right. You're going to subtract the numbers, but you're going to keep the sign of the larger original number. This is a little bit different. Positives and negatives, when they have different signs, they cancel each other 1 to 1. And so if you have more positives than you have negatives, after that exchange, you're going to have leftover positives. So your answer is going to be positive. If you've got more negatives, then you're going to have leftover negatives. So if the signs are different, you subtract, or you might even say you find the difference. If you hear the beeping, I'm boiling some eggs. I forgot that I put boiling eggs on. Let me see if I can pause the video. This is hilarious. Stand by. Okay, I think we're back. Sorry about that. Hopefully no more distractions. If the signs are different, you find the difference, which is just subtraction. And don't think about the sign of the numbers. It's always just the difference, which means the larger number minus the smaller number. Don't care about the signs. So, for example, 15 minus 21. Well, the sign on 15 is positive. So are the signs the same or different? They're different. What's the difference between 15 and 21? Don't think about the sign. Just take the bigger number, which is 21. Oops, I almost wrote 12. Stand by. 21 minus 15. What's the difference? 6. So the number part of the answer is 6. But now we have to go back and think about what we have more of. What do we have more of in the originals? We had more negatives. So the final answer is going to be negative. Negative 6. How about negative 3 minus a negative 14? So again, first step is to replace multiple signs with one equivalent. Negative 3 plus 14. Now, are the signs the same or different? They're different, so find the difference. What's the difference between 3 and 14? What's the separation between those two numbers? Hopefully you can see it's just 11. But what's the sign of the answer, positive or negative? It should be positive because we have more positives with the 14 in the beginning. Now, don't let this one fool you. The signs are different. Okay, so we're going to subtract the numbers. What's the difference between 17 and 17? That would be 0. What's the sign of 0? If you said positive, you're wrong. If you said negative, you're wrong. 0 does not have a sign. 0 is the number that is the reference point to figure the sign of other numbers out. Positive numbers are to the right of 0 on the number line. Negative numbers are to the left of 0 on the number line. What side of 0 is 0 on? You say, that's silly! You're right, there is no sign for 0. So, we're going to skip the try-its. Number line connection. I'm not going to do this one on the number line connection. I'm going to go back and grab, what was the one I wanted to do? I wanted to do, I think I wanted to do -9 plus 5. Let's do that one. So if I do -9 plus 5, just generally with the math, -9 plus 5, are the signs the same or different? They're different. Well, what's the difference between 9 and 5? That would be 4. And what's the sign of the answer? That would be a -4 because 9 was the larger and it was negative. So now what does this mean like on the number line? So let's see here. Let's make this -9 right there. And then if we count to the right where the numbers are getting larger, which means they're going towards 0, which would be -8, I can't count. Don't tell anybody. -7, -6, -5, -4, -3, -2, -1, 0. There's positive 1. Ta-da! Now remember I said there's two kinds of sign. That would be location and change. Sign meaning direction. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start at -9. That's our start location. -9, we're going to start here. It's to the left of 0. But now the +5, that's our change. And a positive change on the number line means to move right. So we're going to go this direction. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've moved to the right 5 places. Where is our final stopping point in terms of location? Can't you see that it's -4 right there? Okay, so does that make sense how it works on a number line? I had one student one time, he was like, oh my goodness, Mr. Marsh, I see that. That's fantastic. He wanted to do all of these questions on the number line, draw out the number line, and then pick a starting point, and then like move or whatever. And I was like, that's good. At some point, though, you need to go back and just learn how to manage this stuff analytically. Analytically means using like math rules and things like that. So if the signs are the same, you're going to add the numbers, keep the common sign. If the signs are different, you're going to subtract the numbers, and you're going to keep the sign of the larger original number. Whew. And I think that's about it for a crash course in combining signed numbers. All the best to you. Bye-bye.